Hi, welcome to this walkthrough about making sure that your paper meets MLA standards to avoid that deduction if you're not using MLA, or even worse, to get a zero because you've inadvertently committed technical plagiarism. So you have access to the master guide to MLA. This is my created document that you should use for all MLA citations and documentation information in the course. The first part tells you about just general formatting information. And this part right here, where it says works cited entries, goes through the 9 elements that are in a works cited entry. Not every works cited entry will need all 9 of these, but these are definitely the things you should look for. There is then a section on parenthetical notation and in-text documentation. It tells you about how to do those signal in phrases like, according to Dr. Jeffrey Cooper, right? Then it tells you how to do the signal out, which is those parenthetical notations. It then walks you through the different parts of the parenthetical notations, divided by author as well as the kind of location that the parenthetical will need. For example, a print source will use page numbers, an audio source will use a timestamp, and a digital source will sometimes have a page number if it's like a PDF document online, but if it's just a regular web page, it won't have a page number. The easiest way to understand that is to look on the screen, and if you don't see a page number when you open up that digital file, then there is no page number to cite. You then have a section on how to incorporate that inside information based on if you're quoting, summarizing, or paraphrasing. A section about what common knowledge is, so kind of knowing what are the things that you have to cite and what are things that are just considered factual and you don't need to cite. Some coverage of plagiarism. And then what I think is the most helpful part are these templates for works cited entries as well as parenthetical notations. So basically, if you're just wanting to make sure you did your parenthetical notation correct, you can come to this section and then you just identify how many authors you have in the source and whether it's print, digital, or audio visual, and then you can just match up what it looks like. So here, if you have one author, you're going to use the author's last name and the page number if it's a print document. Now, if you want to see, again, how that information is derived, then you need to go back up to the actual section on parenthetical notation, and it gives you all of the details. So down here, parts of a parenthetical notation, it walks you through if you have a single author, then this is what it will look like. If you have 2 authors, then you list both of their last names joined by the word and then the location. If you have 3 or more authors, this is where you use that et al. And so Smith et al. Period, and then the location. If you have a corporate or group author, it shows you how you would document that in your parentheses. And if you don't have any author at all, well, then you're going to lead in with a shortened form of the title. So this is an example of that. Right? Now, it also tells you that if you actually name your author in the sentence in that signal in, right, like this, Smith argues that sleep is essential, then you only need the page number. The one exception to this is if you don't have page numbers, right, and you're not doing a quotation, then it's helpful to go ahead and show us where your summary or paraphrases ends by repeating the author's name in parentheses, even though you have it here. And that's just because digital sources don't have that location that we document. So then you can see if you have locations, this is how you would do those page numbers if you have just one page, if you have more than one page, or if you have non-consecutive pages. The thing to understand here is that you're only using the page number where the information you're citing in that location in your essay comes from. So if your article is page 23 to 97, you would not put 23 to 97 here because you're not citing the whole article. You would only put the page number where your quote or summary or paraphrase originates from. Here's where it shows you how to do digital or online sources. So if you have a PDF with numbers, then you do it like a print source. If you don't have any page numbers, it's a website, it ends in HTML, then you just cite the author. And then here's how you do digital audio or visual sources. So all you have to do is just come here and look here, and it will tell you how to do all of those things. In the other section, you have the works cited templates. And this is going to be broken down by the kind of source. So this is the basic template for a book. Now, this doesn't mean that you won't have more information that you need or that you need to use all of this information. Again, sources vary. Like you might not have a contributor, which would be an editor or a translator. If so, then you just skip that part and you move to the next part. You may have a book that's a first edition, which we don't identify. We just skip that part unless it's a second edition or on. But you will always have a publisher and a year. You will always have an author and a title. Well, you won't always have an author. If you have an anonymous book, then you would just start with the title. And then you can see here exactly how to lay out your citation, including the punctuation, the formatting of titles, right? The spacing. You just have to look here, and if you follow this, then you won't get many deductions taken off. If you don't italicize or something like that, that's just a minor deduction. But if you follow this and have this information in this order and follow the rules, then you'll be close enough that that's not going to be a major deduction for your MLA. So let's actually look at a sample paper and walk through how you do this. Now, I'm not talking about layout here. That's a different issue. So again, make sure that your name and class information is correct. But if we go down here, we can see here is a citation. We can see it's actually a quote. Now this one does not use a signal in. That's okay. You don't always need a signal in. Those are preferred, but again, you feel the rhythm of the writing, and it's usually better to have them than not have them, but sometimes the sentence before kind of sets it up. But we see a quotation, and we see in parentheses at the end this. I'm assuming that when I go to the works cited page, I'm going to look under I, and I'm going to see an entry that doesn't have an author, it just has an article title. So if I do that, well, this student didn't, this is actually a student's page, so I'm going to do that real quickly. If I look under I, certainly right there, HI, there is that source. There is no page number because this is an online source. And if I follow this information, I should be able to find the source. And there is the source. Right? So you can see there are no page numbers. Well, now it's behind a paywall, so I can't actually get to it, which is a problem. But at the time, this is an older paper. This was something that I could see. But you can see there aren't any page numbers on the screen, and so that's why I know that I don't need to put page numbers in my parentheses. Okay. So one of the tips to make sure that you are doing this is before you submit your paper, print it out, don't staple it, put your works cited page to the side, to the left side, or if you're a lefty, put it on the right side, and go through your paper. And when you come to a quotation, go to that source and identify it. So what I'm going to do for this purposes is I'm going to highlight it in yellow. That means that I have used this source in my paper. Okay, so now I'm going to go down here, and here I see another parenthetical notation. So because there's no authors, I'm going to see that the authors are named in the sentence. So I'm going to go to my works cited page, and under O, I'm going to expect to see an Olpen and Hessen article. And I'm going to expect to see a page range that matches that, right? So here is the whole, and this is a book. So I don't see a page range because we don't list page ranges for books. So I'm assuming that that is the correct page number, but I can see Olpen and Hessen. So I know that I've used that source at least once. So now I'm going to continue going down. Here's another one, quoted QTD and Rapicon. So here, Taylor Schultz is the person that is saying this, but it's in an article written by Rapicon, and that's why it says QTD in. So I'm going to go to the R's, and I'm going to expect to see Rapicon on my list, and there it is right there. And because it is a website, I know that there isn't a need for a page number. And again, I would check that this URL works and that actually is a real source. So that's all you have to do to double check, right? Here is another source by Linda Stearns, page 60. So notice it says Linda Stern report. So I've got that signal in, and then I've got that clear parenthetical at the end, right? Up here, I have Susie Orman and a clear parenthetical at the end. So if I go to my Works Cited page, I'm going to see Orman. And then I'm going to see, I think it was Linda Stern. And we notice that this is actually an article that has just one page, and that page matches the page that she listed here in the parenthetical. So again, make sure you're using the accurate page numbers, because that's a real clear indication of something really wonky. We know that AI will add sources, but it doesn't match page numbers, so that's a real concern that we have. Here I have a USA Today article from Catherine Canavan, and notice it is 7B. Well, newspapers oftentimes have sections that they letter. And so I'm going to expect that right here, I'm going to see a page, and there it is, 7B, and I can then highlight and make sure that I know that I've cited from that source. So that's what you have to do. Just go down the list. And if you come across a source that doesn't have a citation on your Works Cited page, then you need to add it. So it works both ways. And make sure that you've not put something on the Works Cited list that's not cited in your paper, but it also makes sure that you didn't add something to your paper that you forgot to put on the Works Cited page. And lastly, here, this is that long block quotation that we practice in the MLA practice assignment. You can see here I've got my signal in with Dave Ramsey. This is going to be longer than 4 lines when I type it in, so I'm going to put it aside. I'm going to hit enter, then I'm going to hit this up here where it'll indent it, and then at the end I went ahead and put Ramsey, or the student went ahead and put Ramsey just to show the ending, but because I have Ramsey up here, I technically don't have it there. Now I won't count off if you duplicate it, because it's not technically wrong, it's just not needed. And sure enough, I can come here and I can find that Dave Ramsey is on there. So if I went through this whole essay, I would be able to account for every one of these sources on the Works Cited page, so that I know I don't have technical plagiarism. So that's all there is to it. Don't over stress. When it comes to MLA, you do need to have it correct, because it can be an academic integrity issue if you don't cite your sources. But if you just follow the rules, you should be fine. You can use AI to help you with this, especially with your Works Cited entries, or you can even use something like EasyBib to do your Works Cited entries for you. And I believe some of those citation engines even will show you how to do the in-text citations. So just make sure you're going through and doing that so that you don't get caught with technical plagiarism, and that you're not using APA style. If in your parenthetical you have a year instead of a page number, that's APA style. We also don't label our page numbers like that. We don't put any punctuation in our page. Like if this were Watson 34, we would not put anything between the author's name and the page number for a simple citation. The only time we do that is if we have a work by more than one author and we have to include a bit of the title as well. So if I had 2 articles by Watson, here I would have to say part of the title and then the page number, and I would put a comma between the author name and the shortened title. But I'm sure that's probably not going to be something that most freshmen are using more than one work by one author. But if you are, it's in the master guide. It shows you what to do. So I hope that helps you understand how to format your paper correctly. You can send me comments if you need, or questions. Bye-bye.